Welcome to another episode of the brand called You, a podcast and podcast show that brings you leadership lessons, knowledge, experience, and wisdom from thousands of successful individuals from around the world. I'm your host, Ashutosh Garg, and today I'm delighted to welcome a well respected author from Virginia, USA, Brigid Kennedy. Brigid, welcome to the show.
Hello, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Brigid is an author of a book titled Lost, the Lost City of Incan Gold. And we're going to be speaking today about Bridget. But before we come to your book, a few questions for you. You were a violin teacher and a mother before becoming a novelist. What inspired you to begin writing fiction at this stage?
Well, it's funny that you mentioned at this stage because I turned 50 this week. And and it I had a very full life. We have very full lives now, the
Hmm.
9 to 5, every single thing scheduled into our calendar. I'm a mother. My daughter, she's in cheer, she's in sports. So if you have any children, your schedule is so packed. I'm a
Yeah.
professional violinist. I have all my private lesson studios, my symphony, I have my youth group orchestra. I'm a wife, a faculty wife at that. And so my schedule, it was very full. And at this stage of my life, I thought I had everything going. But 3 years ago at 2 a.m.,
Hmm.
my grandmother came to me in a dream, and
Hmm.
she was real. She was present with me there, her face, her voice, her presence. And she woke me up and she said, write the story.
Hmm.
And that calling has changed my life, took
Hmm.
me on this journey. Now, I didn't stop being a mom, a violinist, and everything. I took everybody on this journey with me. My husband, my daughter, my parents, my whole family, all my violin studio. Everybody has been on this journey with me.
How
So
incredible.
it has been a very fascinating 3 years, but this past year has been incredible.
How amazing. But you have never written a novel before this book. What were some of the biggest challenges and the surprises in becoming a debut author?
Well, so all I written before was music, sheet music, music notes, right? I didn't know how to write a novel of fiction, and every single page that I wrote, that imposter syndrome came with me,
Mm,
every single page. And so I guess the biggest challenge was just trusting my own voice.
mm,
Every page I wrote, that imposter syndrome just whispered that I was the wrong person for
mm,
this. And the biggest surprise was discovering that the real family history made my fiction even stronger. So so that was surprising, but every detail rooted in truth gave something to hold on to.
fascinating.
So I was not inventing a world. I was excavating one.
Fascinating. Let's come to your book now, Bridget. Lost,
Mhm.
the Lost City of Incan Gold. And before I ask you a question, I'm going to ask all our viewers and listeners to go and check out Bridget Kennedy's book.
Yes.
And my first question there's the book, Lost. Wonderful.
Woohoo!
Uh, uh, so, my first question, Lost is rooted in real family history. How much of the
Yes.
story is factual and how much of it comes from your imagination?
This is a fascinating question because I'm currently in Florida right now on a book tour, and we drove down from Virginia. So it's about a 10, 11 hour drive. And we were listening to my audiobook for Lost, the whole family in the car. And my husband, he knows my story and he knows the book, that I wrote. He knows my family. But as he was listening to this book, at the very end, after it's all done, I have a very special includement in there about my true family history.
Mm-hmm.
And so the audiobook was going through what was actually true and what actually happened to my family.
Mm.
And he literally stopped the car and pulled over. And he looked at me. He was like, I thought that was the fictional part. And I was like, no,
Yes.
that was the true thing. That was the true thing. So it was amazing that everybody is so surprised when they read the book. They thought that the most imaginative fictional parts were what came out of my writing that I invented, but that was actually the true parts. And
Wow.
so I did really want to put that extra page at the end because it was so noteworthy to make sure that everybody really knew our true
Mm.
history. So, yes. So, my great grandfather, Robert Patrick Kennedy, he really was an Irish treasure hunter, and
Mm.
he did leave his home soil of Ireland and ventured and braved the open seas of the Atlantic
Mm.
and went to Peru in search of the lost city of Incan gold. This is all true.
Mm. Wow.
And to land in the port of Lima and get to the Peruvian
Yeah.
Amazon, you have to cross through a town called Arequipa, which
Mm-hmm.
was where my great grandmother Eudocia Rodriguez, her family had their land, the hacienda there, and that's where they met, and that's where their love story began. Um, the true stuff about it, the bullfighting match that he fought the bull is true. The flower incident at the store is true. The He brought along his younger brother John, which is
Mm.
was just a year younger, which is very true. And John ended up, while he was in the Amazon, befriending the local tribes, and he fell in love with a tribal lady, and he decided to live his life in the Amazon. And they
Wow.
got married, and they had two daughters that they raised in the heart of the rainforest. Is all
Mm.
true.
Amazing.
The his my great grandfather, he kept going on expeditions
Mm.
into the Amazon back and forth, and on his last expedition, he never returned.
Mm.
He disappeared, and we don't know what happened to him. This is all true. His son, Robert, so they had two children, Catalina, my grandmother, Kat, and Robbie. And Robbie did continue the family tradition of treasure hunting, and he would take tourists on expeditions into the Amazon as a treasure hunting expedition.
Mm. Mm.
And one of those times he found the famed gold Incan mask, the sun god
Mm.
mask,
Mm.
which to this day sits in the Museum of Gold in Lima,
Mm.
Peru. This is all true.
Amazing. Amazing. And tell me, why did you choose to combine Irish myths with Incan legends in the same story?
Well, it wasn't a choice. It's our bloodline.
Mm.
It is what was there in the beginning. So my great grandfather, Robert Patrick Kennedy, he was Irish. Eudocia Rodriguez, she was Peruvian. Their children carried both of the inheritance.
Mm.
The mythology followed the bloodline. I
Mm.
didn't impose it. I discovered it was already there, waiting to be named.
Mm. Mm. How did you create believable young adult characters while still appealing to adult readers?
Well, I wrote this book differently than most YA books.
Mm.
So Kat, without a question, she is 24 years old.
Mm.
And most YA book characters, they start very young, like 15, 16, and they don't really know the world yet. They don't know themselves yet. They're all just waiting to discover who they are and take that journey. But my character, Kat, she is 24 years old. She
Hmm.
is not a teenager. She is a young woman
Yeah.
who has already been training since childhood and is fully formed when the story begins. I
Mm.
wrote her as I would write any complex adult protagonist. Um, the YA designation is mostly about the emotional journey and the family found dynamics.
Mm.
And it's not about simplifying my characters at all. My characters are real, they're
Mm.
gripping, they have grief.
Mm.
They are carrying the weight of the family torn apart.
Hmm.
And so my story is very hard hitting. It has all the feels in there. And I think I designated it more of YA,
Mm.
um, because I wrote this story for all the generations,
Ah,
for
mm.
all the generations,
Yeah.
including my daughter, which is a teenager.
Mm.
And I love to read. I love to read everything. I love to read fictional books, fantasy books, and I quickly realized that not all fantasy books was age appropriate
Yeah.
for teenagers,
Mm.
and not even all YA books were
Mm.
appropriate for teenagers.
Correct.
And so I wanted to make this book something that everybody could read and enjoy without having curse words
Mm.
every other word in your book,
Yeah.
or having explicit relational scenes
Correct.
in the book, right, and thrown in your face. Now, my book does have romance.
Hmm.
It does have heat. Um, and it is a romance that is earned over time,
Mm.
and it's real and it's true, and you can feel it when you're reading it. But it doesn't cross that line where
Mm.
it is inappropriate.
Mm.
So I put the YA title on the book so that all generations would feel
Mm.
comfortable
Mm.
reading it.
Well said. Which character in your book do you feel most emotionally connected to, and why? And did any character surprise you while you were writing the story?
So yeah, so I feel very connected to Kat,
Hmm.
and because she is my grandmother, but I also resonated strongly with her. She carries the weight of everyone that she loves and refuses to put it down, even when it's breaking her. I understand that particular stubbornness very, very well.
Mm.
And the character that surprised me the most
Mm.
was a character that was not part of our family, but was
Hmm.
a character that I wanted to bring to the page in my book too.
Mm.
And her name is Genevieve, and
Hmm.
she is a Haitian voodoo priestess, but she became the most morally complex and ultimately the most redemptive character of the whole series. I mean,
Mm.
her character arc and her story is so gripping. And I put her story, like the background, as the prologue to my book too. And my daughter, um, when I was writing her, I let her listen to the prologue in the very beginning, and
Mm.
she stopped what she was doing, and she was like, "Mom, I love this character." And she
Mm.
was like, "I need more of her, in this book." I'm like, "Okay, well, this is just a prologue. We even haven't got to the book yet." But
Yes.
everybody seems to gravitate to her. She's a
Mm.
wonderful addition to the
Mm.
book, a new flavor, if you would like to say. But she arrived fully formed and she demanded her own story.
Mm. Well said. Were there any moments while you were writing where the emotional connection to your ancestors became overwhelming?
Almost the entire book.
Mm.
I'm about just thinking about that question you just asked. I'm about to tear up just because it's true,
Yeah.
you know. We're talking about Catalina Kennedy, which
Mm.
is my grandmother. She is the daughter of Robert and in Eudosha, right? So this the grief and the trauma that my family had to take on through the generations kind of became our identity
mm,
and something that we couldn't get past.
mm,
And so writing the story, I mean, it was, it hit home so hard for me every moment. And the way I wanted to share what I was feeling and what we have felt through the generations, is almost perfectly put into the book because my book opens in the prologue 15 years before the actual story takes place. So this is at the hacienda where it is the morning that they're about to leave to Ireland. So the two kids, so uh, the dad, Robert Patrick Kennedy, he's an Irishman, right?
mm,
So when he came to Peru and he started living his life and having his family and his children, when his children was old enough, Robbie and Kat, he wanted them to get a European education and to get to know their ancestors,
yeah.
his parents,
Mm,
and also to study in the clan tradition of Master of Blades. That was what the Kennedy clan specialized in. So
mm,
he wanted them to get that training.
mm,
And so he organized and sent Kat and Robbie to Ireland. So this is the morning before they left. And I wanted to show the beauty of 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 Arequipa, the hacienda, um, that I wanted to show the love, the joy
mm,
of, and every character in that family and what they were doing. They're laughing. Their dad's doing shenanigans with his coffee cup. Mom is there, right? So I wanted to show all the love and all the people in the family
mm,
and the heart of the story, and just kind of like the golden years of it all.
mm,
And then when they do come back to the hacienda and everybody's gone, and now there's no laughter, there's no joy, right? Just that sudden emptiness of the
mhm,
family that
mhm.
was there. So I wanted to show both sides of it.
Interesting. Yeah.
And so that was truly heartbreaking for me.
Mm, wow. Did your background in music influence the rhythm or emotional tone of your storytelling?
You know, I do think so profoundly.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Because I think in phrases and not in sentences. And music has taught me that silence
Mm,
is as important as sound.
correct.
And what you do not say is as powerful as what you do
Mm,
say. The pacing of my chapters, the rhythm of the dialogue, the emotional swells before a quiet moment. All that comes from decades of living
mm, yeah.
inside music, but also the discipline.
Mm,
Because to be a professional musician, right, to
mm,
get to that level takes amount of discipline each day.
correct. Correct.
So you are already ready and prepared to work 6 to 8 hours, every day.
Mm,
And as a musician, we don't wait to feel inspired to play. We put in the time, right? No matter if you're having an off day or not. And I found that also in my writing. That, some days the pages just flew, and some days it felt like a block.
mm,
And I still had to put those 6 or 8 hours, into it, um, to be able to look at something that I did and to be able to edit it.
mm,
And every 6 or 8 hours that we're practicing on my violin or any instrument, each run through that you
mm,
do, could be like 2 minutes long or even 30 seconds long. But every time you play a phrase or a section of music and you have to go back and redo it, you have like an intent in your mind. You have a correction that you want to make, and you have to really go for it to achieve it. So it's not just doing the same line the same way for 8 hours. Every single pass at it is a new intent. And I took that into my book, into my writing as well.
Well said. I have time for two more questions for you, Brigid. Uh, Beyond adventure and treasure hunting, what deeper message do you hope your readers will take away from your book?
That the stories we almost let disappear
Mm,
are the most important ones.
correct.
Um, every family has a Robert Patrick Kennedy,
Yeah.
someone whose life was extraordinary and whose story is quietly disappearing. Write it down, tell it before it's gone.
Yeah. Yeah. Amazing. And my last question for you, Brigid. As you look back, what would you say to the Brigid Kennedy who had never written a novel but decided to say yes to a dream and a family legacy?
I would tell her that she was right to be afraid,
Mm,
and she was wrong to almost say no, because the calling always knows more
mm,
than you do.
absolutely.
And absolutely the pot of coffee was a good idea.
Absolutely. And on that note, Bridget, I just want to say what a fascinating conversation this one has been with you. You know, I'm a published author of 10 books, and I always enjoy chatting with authors. And, as you were talking, I was literally thinking about your own journey. And I was thinking of Robert Patrick Kennedy and the adventurer that he was, taking a boat from Ireland. Maybe he came to the US, went to Peru, looking for Incan gold, found your great grandmother. And, what an amazing story. And I sincerely hope one day someone will make a movie out of it. Thank you so much for speaking to me, and good luck to you.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a
Pleasure.
true pleasure.
Thank you for listening to the Brand Called You videocast and podcast, a platform that brings you knowledge, experience, and wisdom of hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. Do visit our website www.tbcy.in to watch and listen to the stories of many more individuals. You can also follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just search for the Brand Called You.